The Karmann Ghia was Volkswagen's high-fashion model. In its day, though, the sports coupe came in for criticism. Many said its driving performance was no match for its racy looks. Still, after production ceased in 1974, the Karmann Ghia became an instant classic, which has only increased in value. Our tester says he's sitting in a heartbreaker of a car, a real dreamboat and the most beautiful VW ever built, the Karmann Ghia. Elegant and fragile, with thin chrome pipes for bumpers, the Karmann Ghia looked like it belonged on a merry-go-round rather than on the street. The car bodybuilder, Karmann, created the first prototype for the coupe based on the platform of the VW Beetle in 1953. Production started 2 years later. Painted metal, ivory-coloured knobs, imitation leather and 3 gauges dominate the minimalist cockpit. At the back, the most powerful of the Beetle's engines hums. The first ones had just 30 horsepower, later ones 50. Christoph Bauer says the car looks sportier and zippier than it actually is. When it came out in 1955, it only had a 30 horsepower motor. It took Christoph half a minute to get the car to go from 0 to 100 kilometres an hour. He says it's just a Beetle in disguise. But in 1955, the Karmann Ghia was powerful enough to keep vehicles like the Goggomobil and BMW Isetta in check. Today, the car just goes with the flow, giving drivers enough time to consider little details, like its typically VW smell and its indifferent directional stability. Christoph says it's wonderfully relaxing to drive this car, and that you notice the car's robust technology. Still, the steering wheel is very difficult, and those with big hands like his tend to hold it with just their fingertips. But the horn is the real attention getter, he says. Beep, beep. Isn't that nice? What characterises the early model Karmann Ghias is their inimitable feeling of quality workmanship. Isn't the Karmann Ghia wonderful, our tester enthuses, adding that it's the most graceful sports car of the 1950s. He notes that it doesn't have the showy radiator grills of the Mercedes 190 or Bogward Isabella coupes. But he says the Ghia is not really a sports car because under its wonderful body is standard Beetle technology. In this case, a 1.5-litre boxer engine from 1966 with just 44 horsepower. Christoph says while the Ghia won't win races, it does win hearts, especially ones as lovely as this. In original condition, it's got just 33,000 kilometres on the clock. Now he's taking his exceptional model out for a spin. This Karmann Ghia is from the Automobile Milestones collection at the Zeithaus Museum in Wolfsburg. The sporty Ghia coupe was the first to offer elegant Italian design at an affordable price. This was made possible by combining the Ghia's sheet metal body with cost-effective series production technology. Christoph says the car was mocked as being a Porsche for rich housewives, and even an imposter. But if the Karmann Ghia was an imposter, it was a very successful one. It was produced for close to 20 years, during which time 443,000 coupes and convertibles were sold. Our tester says those are sales figures many real sports cars can only dream of. And these days, many people can only dream of owning a Karmann Ghia. Convertibles in mint condition sell for over €25,000, while coupes change hands for around €18,000. Not bad for a Beetle variant that originally sold for just over €3,500. Our tester calls the Karmann Ghia the perfect car for people who like to look sharp and have time to spare. Personally, he'd like a few more horsepower, but he says the car's wonderful design compensates for a lot and makes this car a true automotive milestone.